So I think you're on off season. Yeah. All right, 10 seconds left, and we're going to hop into this week's perspective shift. I am not in my studio like I was last week, so I'm back up here in the home office slash bonus room slash kind of the North Pole area. So if I were to move the camera, you could see many presents in boxes, of course, over in the corner. But yeah, we are live here, hopefully on both the YouTube and actually I do know YouTube because I see Mike K in the ATL representing over on the YouTubes. Thanks, Mike, for hanging out with me this afternoon. So this is my Wednesday show that I call Perspective Shift. Why do I call it Perspective Shift? Well, because I write a weekly newsletter that I've called Perspective Shift for a while now. I don't know if it's the best name. I was trying to coincide the branding with my book, The Shift, that I released back in April of this year. The camera just wants to blow out the cover. And so I rebranded my weekly newsletter to Perspective Shift because, I don't know, I guess I thought it was clever. And it's just what I call my newsletter. So you can sign up for that. You can see the scrolling ticker there at colbymartin.substack.com, and that shoots a newsletter into your inbox every Wednesday. You like how I describe what a newsletter is? It shows up in your inbox. It's magical. I think we all know what that is. And usually we unsubscribe, but I'm telling you to subscribe because I think my 700 to 1100 words every Wednesday are worth reading. They're worth writing for me. So I don't know. Hopefully they're worth reading. And then I started doing this thing that I'm doing here, which is, you know what? I'm already writing. I'm doing the work to write these thoughts out, to get them out for you, to take them out of my head and my heart and put them out into written form. And then I have figured out how to do these live streaming shows, use this technology. So why don't I take this content that I'm already producing in written form and deliver it in audio video form? And I've found that some people prefer this format because it gives you a chance to see the face behind the article. Ding. And it also gives you a chance to interact because I see your comments here in my comment window. So if there's something that I have written or said that you strongly like, you can say so, and or strongly dislike. I will accept those comments as well. So then this is what I do. I do this little side-by-side screen, throw the article up on the screen here, and I read. And so I invite you to listen and engage as I share this week's perspective shift, which is about one way in which Christians are super unbiblical. Chapstick real quick. Now, I don't use the phrase biblical or unbiblical very often because honestly, it's kind of a meaningless phrase in my opinion. So what does it really even mean for a thing to be biblical? All that means is the thing in question lines up with how I read the Bible or it doesn't. So it's the most subjective and relative term I can imagine. But for the sake of this article, I chose to use the term because, as you're about to find out, there's a way that I read and interpret the Bible. And so for me, this is one way in which I think Christians are super unbiblical. And yes, I'm painting with broad brush strokes, but it's my newsletter, and that's what I wanted to do with it. So here we go. And it begins with a story from the other night. A couple nights ago on Monday, I was standing in line outside Aldi. By the way, do you have Aldi where you're at? It's a grocery store chain that I was unfamiliar with until we moved to this house about 1.5 years ago, and now I'm kind of obsessed with the Aldi. It's kind of like, I don't know, how do you describe it? It's a German company, so it's just super stark. Their prices are ridiculously low because they don't have a whole lot of staff. They don't have a whole lot. There's no fancy anything. You walk in. It's just, anyway, if you've never been, it's hard to describe. If you have been, let me know how much you love Aldi. So I love Aldi. Great prices, great food. Monday night, I stood in line outside of Aldi, a nearby grocery store that I frequent often, waiting to be let in because, well, California recently moved to increased measures of lockdown in response to this new winter wave of COVID-19. So the number of people that could be let inside was limited. So we're back to lines in a grocery store. Yes, Mike loves Aldi and shops there every week. Isn't it great? I just think all these fantastic. So I was standing in line, and as it was almost my turn to be let in, a man exited the store with his sack of food and quickly yanked off his mask as though he couldn't get outside and unmask fast enough. And he proceeded to shout out as loud as he could, both for everyone and no one in particular, just to shout out, "Better get ready, people!" And at first, I thought it had something to do with the line that we were standing in, like, "Get ready to be let in, it's almost your turn," or "Get ready for longer lines in the checkout, even more lines." But no, that's not where Senior Shouty Guy was going. He continued, "Better get ready. Wake up and get ready, people. Jesus is coming back soon." I did not see that coming. Did not think that's what his shout was going to be. It was honestly rather embarrassing. It turns out that a threat / warning / announcement of the imminent return of Jesus was what this particular man could not wait to get outside the store and yell as loud as he could. "Jesus is coming back," he yelled again as he walked off. And then as he was almost out of range in the parking lot, one last time he shouted for all of us in the line to hear, "Wake up and smell the coffee, people." And I turned to the gal behind me in line and I said, "Sorry, pal, I came here for some sour cream, not coffee." Here's the thing. People have been shouting about the return of Jesus ever since he left the first time, like 2,000 years ago. I think just a cursory reading of Paul and Peter's letters, they show that they were obsessed with this belief that Jesus would come back any freaking minute. Now, scholars will debate whether they believed that he would return literally and bodily in their lifetime, or whether they were being more spiritual or metaphorical. But when I read these early letters that were passed around in these first church communities, I definitely think that they expected a literal return of Jesus any minute. It's kind of hard to miss when you read all this frenetic energy of, holy crap, everyone, get your affairs in order. Stop messing around. Definitely quit sinning, whatever you do, because Jesus is coming back any minute, like a thief in the knife. Thief in the knife? A knife in the thief? That's violent. A thief in the night. Don't let yourself get caught unaware. Like, this was the frenetic energy that Paul often had when he's writing to these churches. Like, yo, we got to get our stuff figured out because Jesus is coming back soon, any minute, like a thief in the night. And I think that they really actually were expecting a bodily, physical return, literal. But Jesus didn't return then. And contrary to what Aldi Shopper Shouter believes, I don't think he's coming back now either. Or Monday night, as this guy was so excitedly announcing. And yet for the past 2,000 years, there have been Christians who have lived in this sort of perpetual state of fear around things like the end of days and the end times and the apocalypse and the return of the Lord. And this Mr. Smell the Coffee guy embodied this unique flavor of this anxious urgency about him, and he couldn't understand why the rest of us in line did not. To his utter dismay, we were more concerned that the store had toilet paper in stock than we were that the trump might resound and the Lord could possibly descend. Now, I'll pause there and say, Mark Keys, there's an Aldi in right down here down the street in San Carlos. So we're just neighborhood outside of Tierra Santa at Navajo and 125 exit. And then also South Africa. Hi, Abby. We just went international. That's delightful. And then a quick shout out to Massage Works. Thanks for tuning in there. Okay, so next section, God casts out fear. So the season of Advent is a season of waiting and expecting and hoping. It's this time of year where we practice anticipation. But I don't think it's supposed to be an anxious sort of waiting. This isn't a wake up everyone, get ready sort of waiting where you're more driven by fear than anything else. Rather, I think it's about a hopeful expectation. It's excitement about what Christians call the Incarnation, which is just a big fancy word that points to this idea of the divine being made manifest in a way that us humans can comprehend it, even if only in a semi kind of barely sort of way. Incarnation, divine being made real, present, fleshly even. I don't know if Jesus is coming back like Aldi guy predicted, but I do know that Christmas is about the story of when he came that one time 2,000 years ago. And somehow, as these stories go, with his birth and his life, he brought with him peace and joy and love. He showed people what God looked like, so much so that the author of a book called Hebrews called Jesus, quote, the exact or the express image of God, an exact representation of the divine. Peace, joy, love, hope. These are the things that the presence of God should be offering people, not fear. If you're afraid of God, then I think you might be doing it wrong. Advent invites us to drop our fear. Just take a look at all the messages to Mary and to Joseph and to the shepherds in the field. Because when God comes near, to quote St. John, perfect love casts out fear. John said that God is love. Ergo, God is in the fear-casting business, not the fear-causing one. So I guess in some sense, yeah, sure, I agree with Aldi Man. Sure, wake up and smell the coffee. But for me, it's about the fact that God is already here and now, and it is good. So yeah, may we enjoy the delightful aroma of Jesus-flavored coffee. But may our waking up be peaceful and light-filled, not doomsdays and frightening. That's what I'm thinking about this week. And for me, when Christians are governed by and controlled by fear, they're acting unbiblical in the sense that the most often repeated command in the Bible is do not be afraid. Yeah, it has a lot to say about murder and lying and adultery. That's true. But the most often repeated is do not be afraid. The Christmas story is this reminder that we don't have to be afraid because when the divine comes near, what we taste and see and experience is peace and hope and joy and love, not things to be afraid of. Not things to be afraid of. So I want to thank that man who, outside of Aldi, shouted to everybody, wake up, smell the coffee. Jesus is coming back soon. Even though him and I theologically might disagree, I do think there is a sense in which waking up to the divine is a good invitation, but may it not be driven by fear, but rather by a hopeful expectation of peace, joy, and love. Thomas says that Jesus is coming back and he might be pissed. Maybe. I could see some disappointment, some anger, some turning over tables. So this is this is wrong way. This is this week's perspective shift article, which you can go to colbymartin.substack.com. You'll see the link, kind of scroll across the bottom of the screen here, and sign up and join my newsletter. And I send these out every Wednesday, and then I hop on here on Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific. But man, I don't know what time it is for y'all, because you are represented in Pennsylvania and Minnesota and Atlanta and Phoenix and South Africa. Abby, if you're still on, what time is it in South Africa right now? That is exciting to me. Great. I hope you all have. Oh yeah, I was going to make two announcements while I've got you here. One is this: tonight, I invite you to tune back in 7 p.m. My wife and I do what's called the Kate and Colby Show, because she's Kate and I'm Colby, and it's our live show. And we do it on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. And tonight we're going to discuss our top 10 questions that we have about Christmas. They call it the most wonderful time of the year. Sure. But why? And so we're going to ask just some of the burning questions. I don't know that we're going to have answers to it, but we're just going to ask some questions about Christmas. And then in the show, I'm going to do a new segment that I'm excited about called Cocktails with Colby. And I'm going to teach y'all how to make cocktails. And tonight I'm going to teach the scofflaw. And the scofflaw is one of my favorite drinks, and I feel like it is perfect for this time of year. So that's tonight at 7 p.m. and you can find the Kate and Colby Show on YouTube, and you can find it on Facebook. Oh, now we have Texas. We have Texas in the house. So I'm just really excited about all the states and countries represented here in this live stream. Thank you for being with me today on Perspective Shift. I do it every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Again, my name is Colby, and I invite you to sign up for my newsletter there and then hang out with me on Wednesdays. But then come back tonight at 7 p.m. for the Kate and Colby Show live. Let's talk about Christmas. All right. I love you all. Stay safe. Be well. See you next week. If you'd like to sign up to get my weekly newsletter, Perspective Shift, where I examine life through a mixed lens of progressive Christianity, psychology, and spirituality, simply head over to colbymartin.substack.com, enter your email address, and click subscribe. And once you're in, you'll see that all my past articles are here. And don't worry, you don't have to do anything about missing anything because every new edition of the newsletter goes directly to your inbox. And periodically, I'll hop on the Facebook Live here and do a live reading of a past article. So just make sure that you go to facebook.com/ColbyMartinAuthor, and then if you haven't already, you click this little guy here and you like my page. That way Facebook will say, hey, guess what? Colby's going live. Thanks for tuning in.